how you doing, good people? This is David Taub with Next Level Guitar. We're here at NAMM Anaheim 2019. We're in the boutique amp booth, and I am so proud today to bring you legendary amp builder, mastermind, inventor, Mike Soldano. Mike, how you doing?
Fine, thanks. Hi. Hi, folks.
It's such a pleasure to finally meet you.
My pleasure, yeah.
And I, big fan of your amps, and I was just telling some of our crew here at Next Level Guitar to have the kind of legs that you've had in this industry. 35 years?
Yeah.
35 years, the Soldano amps. It's just absolutely amazing. How do you feel about that?
Pretty good, really. It's like, on one hand, it makes me feel really old, but on the other hand, it's like, I'm really pretty proud of the fact that I've endured all this time, and I still have a passion for it. So I guess it must be something that was my calling.
Absolutely, and just so many people just love your product.
Yes, I'm very fortunate that way, very fortunate.
And today is a very special day. In fact, I can't believe it, because we are going to talk about the legendary urban legend Stevie Ray Vaughan amp that it's kind of been like a mystery. Was it there? Yes, no. And today you are going to help us debunk and talk about this whole thing. Tell us about it.
So this is it. This is actually the SLO 100 that I built for Stevie Ray Vaughan in 1990.
In 1990, you built this for Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yes, so here's how it worked. I was backstage at a show at the Greek Theater in Hollywood, and I believe it was Allman Brothers and Stevie Ray were on the same bill, because I can't remember exactly why I was backstage, but the only reason I could figure I was backstage is because Warren Haynes of the Allman Brothers was playing my stuff at the time, and so I'm sure that's how I managed to end up backstage. And so I introduced myself to Stevie Ray Vaughan. Well, in 1990, my business in California had only been in existence for about 3 years, so I still wasn't that well known yet. So I really didn't even know if he knew who I was, but I figured, why not just go over and say hi? The guy seemed like a nice enough guy.
Why not?
Why not? So I went over and introduced myself, Stevie Ray, and I'm Mike Soldano, and I'm a real fan of your playing and everything you've done. And he was like the nicest guy, and I said, so I go, I don't know if you know this or not, but I build guitar amps. He goes, well, he says, I've heard of your stuff, but I've never heard one, And I said, well, would you be interested in trying one out? And we talked a little bit about gear. We geeked out on some stuff. And he goes, yeah, I'm always interested in new stuff. And he says, I've the stuff I've heard about your stuff is really cool. So yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to try one out. So I was like, well, tell you what, let me build you one and send it to you. I don't really know exactly what you're looking for in an amp, but if I just send you something, it'll give you a baseline that then you can tell me how you'd like to have it tweaked to more perfectly fit what you're doing. And he's like, that would be really cool. So went back to the shop, built this amp. So basically it's an SLO 100. We wrapped it in tweed and we put the pointer knobs on it just because I knew he kind of liked that vintage vibe.
You like the vintage Fender tweedy kind of?
He was into that, and I wanted to kind of honor that. So I built this amp to look that way. And then the main thing that I did that was different than a stock amp is we added a mid-range scoop circuit to it, because I knew that he kind of liked those scooped out mids. And in playing a Strat with those like super heavy gauge strings, it kind of really lends itself to that.
With the super heavy gauge strings, the big frets, and the tube driver in front of the amp pushing it, right?
All that good stuff that made that sound that is still, it makes me have chills just whenever I hear him, because he just makes that Strat sound so amazing. So anyway, so we put this mid-range thing, there's a switch on the back where you can switch it between altered and stock. And my whole thinking behind it was, I wanted to send it to him, have him evaluate it, make notes, tell me what he liked and didn't like, tell me which position of the switch he preferred, all that kind of stuff. Well, by the time we got the amp done, he was already on tour on that fateful tour that was his last deal, where he was out with Eric Clapton and the whole gang, right? So we shipped the amp out, he receives it, I didn't hear anything, and then all of a sudden I hear that he's deceased, this terrible helicopter crash. We're all just like shocked beyond shocked. It was a very dark time in the music world for sure.
It was not to interrupt you, but where were you when you heard that? For me, I'll never forget where I was when I heard that, and it struck me, and that was one of those moments.
It's exactly what it was, and so it was really devastating. And so at that point, I just didn't even think about anything for a long time. And quite honestly, I'd sort of forgotten about this amp that we had sent out.
So you don't even know where it is, who has it, where it went?
No, and at that point I didn't really care. I was like, it's just wow. So I get a call about 6 months later, I think it was, and I wish I could remember the guy's name, but I'm getting fuzzy with age, and I don't remember, but it was either his production.
You've been standing behind guitar amps blaring for so long. It does something.
Yeah, and so it was either his tech or his production guy, and I really don't remember now, so that's still a little fuzzy in my mind. But somebody called me, said that, hey, we have this amp of yours here. We don't think Stevie's gonna need it where he is now. We'd like to send it back to you. What's the address, etc. So I'm like, of course, so I said, so I gave the address. I said, but by the way, did he ever play it? Did he like it? What's the deal? And the guy goes, yeah, he actually did he had a chance to plug it in, and he did like it, and he wanted to talk to you more about it. Now whether that meant anything at all, who knows? I'll never know, right? But anyway, I got the amp back, and it came back. It had a new dent in it, which was like, oh, okay, no problem.
That adds character.
It adds character. And for years, this thing just sat in my office, like, within eyesight of my desk, and I never even plugged it in. I was just like, I couldn't, it was just weird. I don't know why. Now I look at it, I think it's kind of a weird, some kind of a psychological snap or something. But anyway, but then I started plugging in, playing, and I was like, hey, this is a great amp, and I loaned it to a few close personal friends for recording projects, and then I got a call. Oh, it's probably been about, might be 10 years ago now, from a writer for one of the magazines. I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember his name. He was a really nice guy, and he asked me if he could, do a little article about this. So I heavily insured it, shipped the amp to him. He did a little retrospective about it, told the story. It was in Guitar World, I believe. And then I've had the amp back ever since. So it's always just been kind of this nostalgic part of my world, kind of like a keepsake almost. And so I just thought, for this big, huge change in my career, that it was only appropriate to bring out one of my, little babies. And now it'll be actually Boutique Amps will be the new caretaker of the amp, because I'm going to pass it along with the brand and legacy, and so they will be the new caretakers of the SRV SLO 100.
Are they going to make a similar amp going forward based on this circuitry?
Well, what we're talking about is bringing back the SLO exactly how we've always made it. We're going to make a couple of minor tweaks, however, and these are ideas I've wanted to do for the last 10 years and I've just never had time to do. We're going to put DC heaters on the preamp tubes, because the quality of 12AX7s has really changed since 1985 when I designed this amp to today. I mean, I'm so glad and grateful that they still make these tubes in Eastern Europe. However, they don't have the same noise rejection on the heater circuits as the early American tubes had. And so it's getting harder and harder to build these amps, because you have to hand select the preamp tubes to try to eliminate some of that AC heater hum. By putting DC heaters in there, we're going to eliminate a big noise problem. We're going to make it easier for end users to be able to swap tubes without having to hand pick their tubes for noise. And it won't change the sound of the amp at all. So it's a very positive thing that I've been wanting to do for probably the last 5 or 6 years, just as I've seen the quality of the tubes decline. And then the other thing we're going to address in the new version is there's been a real shift since the 80s to now on what people are using for effects. Back when I designed this amp and into the early 90s, almost everyone was using rack mount type of gear, which was all high signal level stuff. It was all designed to be either PA or pro audio type of equipment, or recording studio equipment, which had generally somewhere in the range of 0 to plus 10 dB signal level. But now there's been such a move to boutique pedals and mostly guitar signal stuff, where you put them on your pedal board, then go into the amp, that a lot of those guys want to use those pedals in the loop, but the loop is too hot for those pedals. Some of the pedals can handle the signal level, some can't. And so again, rather than have to leave users to have to deal with how they were going to compensate for the signal. We're going to take this opportunity to make a minor tweak to the effects loop to bring the level down so that it's compatible with modern type of pedals, which is where the trend is going. Nobody's really using that rack stuff anymore, at least not for guitar rigs. I mean, it's still popular, but the real trend has been towards like these guys across the aisle here who are building these wonderful boutique pedals. I've never seen more pedals in my life until this weekend at the NAMM show. It's really incredible to see such a movement that way.
It's an amazing time that we live in, and
it really is. It's like guitar players have more choices now than they ever had before, and it only seems to get better.
yeah, and it sounds like with the new design, it's almost like the SLO Plus or SLO on steroids, or a modern day version of the SLO for the modern player.
That's right. It's a natural evolution, and it's something I've wanted to do for a long time. So it's going to be a new chapter for the SLO as well, but it'll still be the SLO, just a few little tweaks that I've been wanting to do for a real long time.
This is awesome. I'm really happy for you, Mike. Thank you for making time for us at Next Level Guitar.
Thank you.
And we're really happy that you're able to come to a place where you can keep the brand of Soldano going and do the things you want to do. And thank you for sharing that incredible story with Stevie Ray Vaughan.
My pleasure.
And we wish you all the best and good things.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. Bye.